Welcome to Odd Autos. This is Custom or Classic. Welcome back everybody to another part of our Custom or Classic, where we're continuing with our custom Mk2 Escort. So we've got about 5 days left until the NEC. If you remember in the last video, Keith's painted it. It's back up here. We've got to smash on with it. So Omex have given me like a startup map that I've got to figure out how to program into the ECU so we can get it running. And then if we've got enough time, we'll get it to Dave and get him to set it up properly. If not, there'll probably be another part after this, you know, where we get it rolling roaded. So all hands to the deck now. Let's smash on with this build. So we get the car up in the air, and the first thing to do is bleed the brakes. So we got the brakes on before the paint job, just got to bleed them now. And you can see we've got a nice set of 4-pot wheel woods that should stop us well. And then on the back, we've got a rear disc conversion with Cosworth calipers. Hopefully these brakes are just the job what we need for this car. So wheels on next. On the fronts, I went for 15x8 with 225 tyres on it in a mini light style. And then on the back, we got 15x9 with a set of 245s on it. They are some chunky beasts. Then dropping it back down, we bought all new seals again and a new front screen, and we get all the glass in. And then it's on to building the doors up. On this one, I bought like a carbon style inner door cards, just a bit better than the old vinyl interior. I made the biggest mistake going with our new seal kit. The outer window seal, I cut about 1 inch too short, which was a pain. So then I had to order in a new set. Actually cut it to the right size this time, which was a good job because these seals ain't cheap. Then on the inside, Austin's already been and put our roof lining in just after the paint job, and also he's carpeted all the interior, and we got a nice set of bucket seats with some 4-point harnesses. Moving around to the front, fitted a new grille, new headlights and headlight bowls, and also on the front, instead of the Mark ones, only got 2 sibbies, went for the 4 on this one. Done it look mint. So after the front's all done, moving into the engine bay. We had built a lot of it up beforehand, so it's just a case of fitting the exhaust, topping the fluids up, and that's ready to go too. Moving around to the back in the boot, we've got the fuel tank in and the fuel pump. I've fitted the battery. I've got an internal cut-off switch in the boot for like long-term storage. Also, I've fitted an extra one on the dash, just in case you need to turn it off quite quick. Then the last thing we got to do is fill it up with fuel, make sure we got no leaks, and then turn the ignition on, make sure that works, and program our ECU, which at the time I thought I had done perfectly, to be honest. Right, let's crank it and see how we get on. So this is where the first problem occurred. The fuel pump in the back was making a noise that's hard to describe. I've seen it on a film once, sounds a bit like this.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
And it was awful. It was getting red hot, and I've got no fuel coming up to the fuel rail. I got fuel coming out the tank, going down the pipe to the pump, and I got nothing coming out the pump. So we got a dodgy pump. So good news, I phoned up the supplier. It wasn't an eBay special this time. I actually paid through the nose for a proper decent pump. Told them what was happening with the car, and the pump was sounding like this. And they said, we know exactly what that is. They've got a problem with the pre-pump filter. So this sits in between the fuel tank and the pump, stops the bigger bits, you know, of dirt, if there is any in the tank, getting into the pump and damaging it. They said just unscrew this and have a look at the filter inside and see if it's very fine, and it looks like that. Basically, I mean, you can hardly blow through it. It's like a super fine, kind of like bronzy forged piece. So they said, well, next day you a new pump and a new filter. and here's the filter. So I've already had a quick look, and you can see the difference straight away. Let's have a blow for it. Yeah, it's much better. Where's the old one? So there's the old one, and there's the new one. It's almost like molded tiny balls, but the one's got smaller balls. But yeah, we've got our new pump, got our pre-filter. I'm probably going to put this piece in the old black one because I don't really want the only blue bit on the car to be that. And then we'll have another go at starting it. So let's crack on. Turn the power back on. Let's have another go. There's the keys in my pocket. That sounds better. And it won't start again. So I went back to my programming just in case. Nope. Still wouldn't start. Back to the programming again. No. And then one last go at the programming before I threw my laptop out the window. No, still wouldn't go. Then I realised the fuel pump turns off when I'm cranking it, and also I've got no spark on cranking. I've done something wrong with the wiring here. Right, after all that, I had wired the ECU up to ignition live that didn't stay live while you're cranking. So basically, it worked with the ignition on, which is why I could code it, but then as soon as I cranked it, everything turned off. Brilliant. So I've got around that now. Fingers crossed. We've done a lot of cranking, so it might be flooded. That fuel pump still sounds a bit noisy, but it's all right. Let's have a go. It's not in gear, is it? No. Okay. Okay, it actually sounds all right for a Galaxy engine. Whew. Yeah, it's running a bit rich. Well done, Omet. Let me turn it off. Ooh, smoking a bit as well from the paint and the exhaust. Well done, Omex. It's a bit rich looking at it from the back. Whew, that exhaust paint smells. Right, got to run it up a few times now and get rid of this grease that we've got on the exhaust off our hands. And then I think we're nearly done. Yes. So we're back, it's 2 days later. It's now Tuesday the 8th, which is hopefully I'll get this video out on time. One thing I noticed running up the car, the heat coming off that exhaust, because it's quite close to that inner wing, you couldn't even touch the inner wing next to it. It was getting that hot, which was no good. So I had to next day order, well, which came yesterday, some heat wrap. So I've wrapped all the exhaust up and stuck some like that gold stick-on insulation round the inner wing, round the bulkhead and down underneath, just to try and stop the panels getting hot really, because Keith, he gets that little vein in his head when the paint starts getting affected by something. So that's all done now and I'm ready to show you the car. Let's go and have a look. So out of the two Escorts I originally imported from South Africa, this custom one looked the worst. With its terrible paint job, with its awesome exhaust sticking out the back. I mean, who doesn't love twin DTM pipes? Center exit with the little bit of mesh above it. But then looking back at it, the classic Escort was the worst. It needed so much welding. I think the only original panel on the classic one was the inner wings and the roof. Everything else had to be done. So it just shows you that when you look at a car and it looks bad, you've got to go past that and look at the bones of the car. And in this case, the custom one was actually better. Yeah, it had a bent chassis rail at the front and it needed wings and a few little bits and bobs, but overall it was a real solid car, which was good. So 2 months later, after digging it out of storage, it being covered in surface rust and looking proper sad for itself, this is what we've got now. Have a look at that. That's what 2 months hard work looks like in a car. Yeah, we've spent a lot more than the classic one on this. We've spent about £30,000 in parts, but look at that. It looks proper mint. And there we go. Our first custom, I nearly pointed to the wrong one, custom or classic is finally complete. What do you reckon? I absolutely love them both. It's funny having them next to each other. You can see that 2 years ago we used a different paint supplier. They supplied us with a Venetian red from a different manufacturer, and then this supplier has supplied us this one, which is slightly more orange, which actually I prefer for the custom one. It's a nice bright red, and as always, it looks mint. So there's a lot of cars out there that I've been looking at personally. I've gone out and viewed a couple of Mark 1s and Mark 2s that look good in pictures, but when you get up close, they look like this. Where there's rust, obviously, with just wogs of filler over the top. The quarter wasn't even attached properly at the arch. There's a lot of shitters out there that are really bad. Now, my motto here is, if you've got to do it right, and that's what we've done with these two cars. We haven't patch repaired, we've cut out the complete panels and done it all properly. So I'm a bit mad. Obviously, they owe me a lot more than what I'm going to get for them. Like this Mark II, the classic one, to be honest, owes me about 25 grand when you look back in parts and labour. This ain't Wheeler Dealers here, where I don't work out the labour. And then this one, I think I paid 7.5 grand for the car originally. I've spent about 30,000 in parts, panels, paint, and then we got the 2 months of overhead. So this probably owes me over 60 grand. I'll be lucky to get 50. But it's the love of cars. We've got two of the best Mark II Escorts in the UK at the moment, and they're both sat in front of me and they're both mine. Well, not for long, because this one's on the raffle. So thank you everybody who's done the raffling so far. I've sold about 400 tickets. It's still on there. It'll be on there for a bit longer. If it sells out quicker, I'll finish the raffle and draw this, and then we'll probably move on to the Mark 1. But yeah, finally done and on to the next project. So we're at the NEC Classic Car Show in 3 days time. Basically, I've got to load these up tomorrow now and get down there to the NEC. So Hall 5, if you're around and we're talking to other people or anything like that, just come and tap us on the shoulder, because the problem with me and Keith, once we get chatting, we just talk for England. So yeah, just come and say hello and join us, and yeah, have a look. Both cars will be there. So another thing before we go, we're going to start on another custom or classic, but with the two minis next. So I'm going to start on the classic mini, and it's going to be different, where instead, like with these, I've just like shoved over it and this is done, that's done. I'm going to show step by step of all the process of doing it. So please don't unsubscribe and join us for the mini rebuilds. So as always, I'll see you on the next one. Ta-da!